Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. How are you guys? It's Monday, which means it's time for a recap of season million of 90 Day Fiance. I think this is actually the fourth season of Before the 90 Days. And we are on season a million of the franchise. And last night was episode 12, and it was called The King of Wishful Thinking. So if you are here for Usman and Baby Lisa, they were not in this episode, oddly. And Yolanda was gone. I guess Yolanda is no longer a part of the show now that we've learned that she has been catfished, or I'm not sure. This week was all about, oh my gosh, can we just say that like pretty much everyone has broken up? Like, yeah, like literally every single relationship has ended so far. So we've had Darcy and Tom, their whole thing wrapped up, so they were not in this episode either. And they split. He was apparently going to move on with Shannon, but in the real world, he and Shannon's relationship was like 2.5 seconds. Now, on to this episode, we're going to see Varya and Geoffrey, Erica and Steph, Rose and Ed, and then there's going to be a lot of David. Yeah, who knew, right? Okay, so put aside everything you've heard from the tell-all leaks, because I know you guys are still like, you know all of the details, but let's just go back to let's rewind the clocks. Before Geoffrey lost his mind and was put in handcuffs, okay? So we left on a cliffhanger last week with Geoffrey proposing to Varya. And it was very much like, why is he proposing? They have barely spent any time together. This is the first time they've met. They've spoken for like a few months, and he decides that he needs to propose to her. Why? I'm not sure. But he pops the question, and he's like, I want to continue this adventure with you. Will you marry me? And then she's just like, ooh, don't you think this is kind of quick? In her cute little Russian accent. And he's like, so you're basically saying no. And then she says that she's not ready to leave everything. Maybe, and then she goes, maybe not now. And he said, so basically that's a no. And she said, I just said not now. And then she went into her interview and she said that she was in love with him, but she wasn't sure she could trust him with everything. Given the fact that he, has that whole history where he spent some time behind the clink. And she says she's not ready to uproot her life and move from Russia to the United States to be with him because she has so much uncertainty around him because he hasn't been truthful about things, which, by the way, yeah, dodging a bullet, Varya. During this time, he is like clenching his jaws and he has this like look on his face that like was, if the cameras weren't here, I would totally be throwing you in the woods. Like he had that kind of intensity on it and he was so annoyed. And he's like, well, I feel like I waited long enough to be happy. And I thought that you like would say yes. I wouldn't have done this if I wouldn't have thought you would have said yes. And then she's like, well, what if I'm not your soulmate? And he's all like, this was our make or break time. Like, why? Why? What's the urgency, Geoffrey? Like, you're still married, by the way. Did you guys know that? He's still married. So, Geoffrey, what's the urgency? Like, why do you have to be engaged to her right now? And she's like, what if I'm not your soulmate? And he's like, well, then you would be making the right decision. But what if I am your soulmate? And then she's like, well, if I am your soulmate, then everything will work out because we will find a way to be together because, destiny. And then she basically in an interview just says that, there's too many red flags here. He flipped out on her friends. Remember that time where her friends let him know that she had been talking to somebody else from the United States. And he was just like, oh, she's using me for a green card. I knew it. And he's like flipped out and he ran outside and we saw like the steam coming out of his ears. And we saw some of the Geoffrey that we've heard about in the paper, which he insists is like all a setup because, everyone that gets arrested is set up. Now, people do get falsely arrested, but there seems to be a pattern of behavior with him. And she says, and then telling her family about his criminal history, these were huge issues and hard for her to like overcome in terms of like wanting to move on and move forward with him. So she had fun with him. She thought he was a nice guy, but she's not ready to be his wife. Okay. On to Avery and Ash. They are back at the place where they were sitting. Remember like last week, he was all like, they were fighting about the stupid seminar. Well, not the stupid seminar where she basically called him sexist. And he was like, I'm not a misogynist. I'm like, you were never have my back. And she's just like, don't be mean. And he's like, don't it make you feel like a woman? Like that. And Ash tells her that he's going to leave, and he's just like, show me that you love me. Like, show me, try harder. You know, like he's just like very intense. And he's like, tell me you love me. I want you to be here. Tell me that you want to be here. Show me, you know. And then she's like talking about how like the first words were like, you're heartless. How did you expect me to listen to you? And she like in an interview says that he was super worked up and childish and she doesn't want that in a partner. And then he apologizes to her for saying that to her. And eventually they come to a truce and they're like, all right, now we're going to go meet Sian and Taj. So they get into the car. It's like a few hour drive and they have to go meet his ex-wife and Taj, who's his son, who he has told Avery, yeah, my ex-wife is totally okay with me taking my 10-year-old son out of the country to live with me so I can shack up with you in the United States. Said, what mom would ever do that? By the way, his mom has tons of custody with him. Like, how? What mom would be okay? Yeah, uproot my son's life. Take him to the United States where he knows no one. Cool. And Avery rightfully has skepticism about this. And so she's just all like, there's so many red flags and I just really need some space and time. And, you know, they're supposed to sleep in a hotel together. And she's just like, I'm just not ready to like share a hotel with you. I just need a night to clear my head. And Ash is all like, well, like we're supposed to work through things together. Like, how do we work things together if we're apart? So he drops her off at another hotel. He stays at a separate hotel. He doesn't understand why she needs space, and that's end scene. So Erica and Steph, they were sitting in the hotel room, and Steph makes the decision that they're actually going to call Stephanie's mother, and she's going to come out of the closet, which I hate when people say that, like, I'm going to come out. Like, I get it, but it makes me sad that people have to come out in 2020. Like, can't we just love everyone for who they are and who they love? Love is love. Okay. So she is basically saying that, like, in order to have, like, this relationship be outward with everything, she has to come out to her mom, and she wants to introduce Erica to her mom, and that she's like, I know that's really important to you, Erica, and Erica's like, you know, you're leaving soon, and then you'll go back home, and you'll spend time with her, and she doesn't even know who I am, she doesn't know what I mean to you, it just seems weird, and Steph tells her, you know, I'm just conservative. I'm worried because my mom is like old school conservative and I'm really not sure how she's going to take this. So they do a video chat and they call her mom and they're on the video chat and her mom is asking like how they're doing and if they've had a good time. And, you know, if, you know, she's asking Stephanie about her health, like, have you had any fevers? Are you doing okay? And Erica's like, yep, she's taking all of her meds. We're using all of our hand sanitizer. Everything is totally fine. And then her mom is like, have you invited her to visit in America? And Steph's like, yeah, like she's going to probably come and stay with me for a while. Wink, wink, like living with me, right? And then all of a sudden Stephanie's like, well, I have a confession to make, Mom. And she's like, what? And she's like, I went cage diving with sharks. Really, Stephanie? And then her mom's like, what? You can't do that with your health, you know, obviously. And then that was like, she's like, it's okay. There were professionals there. And then she ends up like hanging up and Erica's disappointed. And she's like, you know, maybe one day you can talk to her about it. I can't, it's going to go bad. And if it goes bad, I don't want it to go bad. And I feel like, she says she feels like she's letting Erica down, but she needs to feel more comfortable. I need to be ready. I understand where she's coming from with her mother, but I feel like if it's this hard to be honest about who you are and your mother's reaction of what your mother is, like some self-reflection needs to be done in terms of like what you're feeling, how you're feeling, and why you don't feel like you can tell your mother. And if your mom can't accept you for that, like does your mom really love you unconditionally? And are you really, you're kind of underestimating her, right? I don't know. I mean, I know a lot can happen when you do come out and some families will sever ties or get really angry, but so many other families in this day and age are becoming more and more accepting so parents can surprise you. So on one hand, I understand her apprehension. On the other hand, I struggle. You know what I mean? Like she should just be confident and own it and not care. She's 29. She's 29. I know it's not that easy though. Okay. On to David. So he was like, last time I talked to Lana, she stood me up, and I haven't talked to her we didn't talk for a few weeks, and I went over there, and then I spoke to Lana again, and we chatted, and now it's like, I need to go back there right now because she felt horrible. She said that she wanted to make it up to me, and we're going to go back to the airport. And he gets on a plane, and he goes back to Ukraine after he sat down last week with the PI who told him that she had like 18,000 different accounts. By the way, some guy on YouTube found her on one of those dating sites and like started dating her. Seriously. I don't remember who the guy is. You should just check it. Like, I found David's girlfriend and I'm dating her or something like that. And he's like, I'm going to go there. And so he gets on the plane. And when he gets to the hotel, he's like, it's so awkward. It's so staged. The lady's checking in and she's like, how are you? Did you come to visit? And he's like, I'm actually here to visit my girlfriend who already stood me up 37 million times. And the lady's like, oh, great. Enjoy your stay in Kiev. You know, it was so awkward. And then they pull the lady aside and they're like, what do you think about this? And she's just like, I think Ukrainian women like to go online and scam American men. And then he gets there and she sends him an email and says, oh, sorry, David, I can't meet you. I've got to go to my nephew's hockey game. Yeah, that's what happened. All right. Rose and Ed. This is where it ends, y'all. Where it ends. And last week on the cliffhanger, she said, I'm done. Well, this is where it started. And she said, I think you do not love me and I'm done. And then Ed's like, I've never seen her like this. Like, I don't understand. And then she says, and then she starts listing out all these reasons. She says, I think you don't love my son. You put no time and effort into meeting him. You don't tell me the truth. I feel like you've hurt me. And she's like, I don't like how you've treated me. She's like, I keep giving you chance after chance and you don't listen to me. Even after I tell you what you've done, you don't change your behavior. And she said, and Ed's all like, well, I didn't realize you were so upset. Like, I don't get it. Like, this is weird. He's not like saying like, I'm sorry about that. This is terrible. I'm sorry, Rose. It's still like, well, why would you feel that way? You know, it's like he's taking no accountability. Anyways, and he's just like, well, I fell in love with you on Facebook and I came here with love in my heart and I brought a ring and my plan was to go back with you to Manila and ask you to marry me. No apologies, no acknowledgement of how she was feeling, no sentiment for like, I'm really sorry I did these things. I'm really sorry you felt that way. It was more like, well, I'm going to marry you. And isn't that enough? Yeah, that's totally enough, Rose. And she's just like, he's like, my intentions were real. She's like, yeah, I know you're real, but your behavior is not good. Go, Rose. After what came out yesterday, which if you haven't seen that video, click here. Okay. And she says, I try to understand you, but you just keep hurting me. You lie to me and again, and I don't want to continue this relationship. This is the last time that you give me any sort of hurt and I'm done. So she's like, I'm done with this relationship. She doesn't want to wait for her time on with someone else. She doesn't appreciate, he's like, she doesn't want to, she said, I don't want to waste my time on someone who doesn't appreciate me. She's like, she won't forgive him anymore. And she said to him, please change your behavior. I think you will give her what you, he's like, if you date someone else, if you find someone else, you will like, if you keep doing this, this is what's going to happen to you. And he's like, and he goes, so you think I'm bad? You think I'm a bad person? And she said, yeah. And he storms off. No apologies, no anything. He literally just has a bitch fit and walks away. So he storms off. Rose goes back into the hotel room. She actually packs up all of her belongings. She gets ready to leave. And the producer's just like, how do you feel, Rose? And she's like, I feel sad. I feel hurt. She said he didn't accept his mistakes. He didn't take, like basically saying like he took no accountability. She said, I miss my son because I left him for Ed and I just feel sad. And she says, I'm done. He said, when I met him online, he gave me respect, but when he came here, he didn't. And she said, I know who the true Ed is, who is a freaking creepy, you know what I'm saying? Like, and she said, I will meet my true king in the future. And then they finally catch up with Ed, and Ed's just like, oh, I just couldn't hear it anymore. I like just couldn't hear how much she was hurt. I couldn't hear what she said to me. No apologies, nothing. He's just like, I'm just so shocked. I waited 28 years to do this. And I just, maybe I need her to calm down and she'll come back to me. No, Ed. Probably not. That's the end of Rose and Ed. Okay. Now back to Avery and Ash. So she's going to meet with his ex. She takes a cab, and in the cab, she's like talking about how she's concerned about like whether or not like he's being honest about allowing Taj to move with her to the United States, because as a mother, she would never be okay with that. And then she arrives there, and so he's like, how are you doing? Did you sleep well? And she's like, yes. And she's like, did you sleep well? And he's like, no. And he basically just says like, things have been really rocky in his interview, and like he was like, but she's here, she must love me. He's so thirsty for love that he'll take any scraps from Avery, but Avery has a right to have concerns here. I'm still team no one here. He thought her staying there last night meant that she was over it, but her being there must be that she loves him. They go inside. They meet Taj. Taj gives him a hug. She meets Sion. Sion says she can see the attraction. They talk about Taj's dog. It's kind of awkward. And then Avery and Sion agree to go and have a glass of wine. Then back to Geoffrey and Varya. Again, these photos are not actually from last night's, but anyways, they are, they have to go. They're at the air. He's like in the plane going back from Siberia to Moscow. He said he's leaving Siberia. He's disappointed. This isn't what he wanted. He wanted Varya to marry him. So naturally, because she said no, he's being a doodlehead, and he's basically acting like a big fat baby that it has to be the end of everything, and he's being super bratty. And he's like, it's hard to know where I stand with Varya. I thought she was the one. And then, like they're trying to figure out how they're feeling. Varya admits that it's really awkward. And they get into they get back, they're at the hotel. He's waiting for her to get out of the bathroom. They admit that like he's leaving. He's going to leave Varya. Varya is like poking around. They get ready. They get into the car. They're driving in the car. It's super tense in the car. Varya admits that ever since she said no, it's been super, super awkward. They start driving past a bar, and he's like, well, maybe you can come back and we'll go there the next time. And basically he's like, why would I come back here again? And she admits that the relationship is really, really bad. There's just way too many issues, his criminal history, and she's still learning things about him that she doesn't really like. And like, he's like, are you happy with how things went? You told me no. And she's like, well, you did one try. It's not like we have to like live in the same town. And he's like, well, I'm going to go back to the United States and I'm going to go to Russia. It's not like I have like a million chances to like ask you to marry you when I'm with you. He's like, this is my chance. And she was like, I don't want to make such an important decision so fast. Again, like she's trying to be logical, but Mr. I've been married 4 times and I'm still married is impulsive and needs to find a wife as soon as possible for some weird reason. And they like he's like, I don't know. I don't think you're the person for me, because I don't think the person for me would say, do I really want to be with you or to be with this guy? And he's like, I'm not the one that you're looking for. So it's super awkward, super tense. I feel bad for Varya because he's just acting like a baby. All right, back to David. He meets with the private investigator in Kiev. The private investigator basically reiterates every single thing he said, like he's on 7 different websites. Like he's mad at Lana because Lana isn't prioritizing his time. He's irritated that she's going to a hockey game rather than seeing him. He wants to find out if Lana actually lives in Kiev, so he asks that. There's a translator there doing all of it back and forth. And he's like, does she live in Kiev? Does she live with her sister? The PI basically explains, like, we would never know because as long as she's registered in the city that she lives in, she could basically go anywhere in Ukraine. She's not, she doesn't have to register in any specific city, so they would never really be able to verify it. He also tells David, I think it's weird that she's not seeing you right away and she's going to a hockey game. Wouldn't she want to be with you? And David's all like, that's speculation. That's not fact. I'm not here for speculation. And then he also says, well, Lana is on 8 separate sites. And so she has around 8 other guys she's doing this with, David. And then this lady is a scammer. And he's like, you're fired. Because he didn't want to hear that Lana has like 8 other guys. And that, he's like, I only want facts. I don't want conjecture. David, she doesn't want you. And even if you meet her, she's scamming you. All right. So Avery and Ash Avery and Sion go to a wine bar and they talk about their relationship and things. Avery admits that things have been really rough the last few days. She wants some alone time with Sion to ask her some questions. So they sit down and she's like, she says Ash and Sion have been divorced for 10 years, but they have a really good co-parenting relationship. And she says that Ash told her very early on that she had an open mind about Taj moving to the United States. And Ash, so Avery starts and she's like, Ash is this amazing guy. He's so sweet. He's empathetic. And Sion's like, yeah, he's really easygoing. He's polite. He's mostly a good person. Sometimes he just stuffs things down and he doesn't really share when he's stressed out. So it all comes out like that. And she said, we swept a lot of things under the rug. Then we had Taj and everything just, flipped upside down and it didn't work. And then Avery's like, so when did you divorce? And she's like, well, we were divorced a year ago. And then Avery's like, wait, what? Didn't you get divorced 10 years ago? And she's like, no, it was last year. And Avery's like, well, what? And she's like, well, we split up 10 years ago, but the divorce was just last year. And she's like, well, were you trying to figure things out? Why didn't you get divorced just a year ago? And Sion basically admits to her that things were just so amicable between them that they didn't have to divorce because they didn't really everything sort of stayed the same. They weren't together. They weren't trying to make things worse. They were still separated. They just didn't go through with the final step. But then Avery's still why did Ash not tell me that part? He was literally married up until a few months before I met him. Technically. But again, still a red flag. And then she just says, what's up about Taj, And Sion basically tells her, I can't imagine him living in a different place than me. I don't know that it's a good idea for Taj to go there without me. I don't think it's good for Ash to go there and leave his child behind. I think Ash should wait a few years to do this since it's Taj that only has a few years in childhood. And if it's Avery, that could be, you could wait longer. You don't have to leave right now. And Avery realizes that Ash has sugarcoated so many different things by withholding information about his, marriage, and now letting her believe that Taj would be able to come to the United States, which Mama Sion basically said, not going to happen. Okay, now we're back to Varya and Geoffrey, and they arrive at the airport, and he's in an interview, and he's going back with a broken heart. He was hoping to go home with a ring on her finger, and he's going, he's he wanted to go up, but she said no. And she's just sort of dumbfounded. She doesn't really understand what's the problem with him. She doesn't want to she's I don't want to move so fast or make mistakes. And he's like, well, I feel like this is the end. And I don't know how to make it any clearer to you that I'm going to go and live my life without you and I'm leaving. It was so cold. And he basically just gives her a hug and he says thanks for the adventure. Bye. And then Varya is sitting there sort of dumbfounded and crying. And she's like, what? And so she's pacing back and forth and he goes in and then she chases him back in and she gives him this huge hug and she's just I don't want this to be the end. I can't believe this is the end. And he's just you hurt me. You hurt me by saying no. And she's I don't want to let you go. And he's we had our chance. I need someone to love me and not stop. Really? That's so manipulative. That's so conditional. She didn't say she wanted to break up. She just said she didn't want to marry you right now. And he's you second guess the situation. And I don't know what you expect me to do. And I'm hurt. I'm going home. Thanks for everything. He gives her her purse back and hugs her and I've got to go. And he leaves. Wish me luck on my flight. And she's just walks out crying. It felt so bad. Varya, you deserve so much better, but you dodged a bullet. All right. This is where things get crazy with Erica and stuff. So she's leaving Australia in a couple days. They wake up in the morning and they start talking about how Steph couldn't go through with coming out. And Steph admits that she's really worried about how her mom's going to react. And they start talking about things, and they were like sort of commiserating about how the trip's gone so fast. They've made a lot of progress. They've gone through some really big things together, like coming out and doing these different things and all these different adventures together, and taking steps together, like going to Erica's parents and introducing her as her girlfriend. And she's like, and you introduced me to your mom, but I guess there's more to come. I hope so, says Erica. I don't want to be kept a secret, says Erica. And she just says, like, it scares me that I'll always be your friend. And then she asks her, like, can you see yourself introducing to me, you as my girlfriend? And then Stephanie admits to her, like, the strongest bond she has is with her mother, and she doesn't want to destroy that relationship, and it would kill her if she didn't accept her. And she has been going, her mom's been with her through thick and thin. She actually moved with her mom from the Czech Republic. They had hardly any money. They surfed on couches when they first came to the United States. Her bond with her mom is like the only thing that she has that's stable in her life. And she said that it has to be on her own terms and when she's ready to do it. And then Erica basically says, well, I don't want to be stuck in a position for a very long time. And she's worried that it's never going to happen. And like Stephanie's like, well, why are you so worried about this? And then Erica starts talking about how she had this relationship with someone and this girl like kept her a secret. And it was weird because didn't she just come out to her parents? So how was she kept a secret? Like, didn't Erica keep her a secret then? Or was it like a secret to her friends? She didn't really elaborate there. That part had me completely confused. And then Steph's like, what? You had what? What relationship? You've never told me about this. She gets super jealous about an ex-girlfriend. And she's like, well, I don't really like to talk about it. This girl wasn't ready to come out to her mom, and it was really hard, and it spanned over the course of 10 years. And then Steph's like, but we bonded over bad relationships. We went through all this. I thought we were being vulnerable with each other's. And she's like, in her like interview, like, she never told me this before. Like, and she's like, I feel like you're leaving things out. I know, kind of, but Erica then in her interview is like saying like, I know I just came out to my parents, but I don't want to be kept a secret. And like, she felt like the girl that she was with before was embarrassed by her. Erica admits that she wants to open up to Steph, but then Steph raises her voice with her, which she did. She was like, wait, what? You had a girlfriend? Who? Tell me. Who is she? Because she's like, who is she? What was she? What? Tell me now, And then like Stephanie is irate and Steph freaks out. She gets off the bed. She's like, I didn't know you had this problem before. There's no honesty in this relationship. And they start going through all the different things, like the dating app, your friends. I don't know which friends you've had hooked up with. How do I know? I don't know all of your friends' name. And when I meet them, how am I supposed to know if that's the one you had blah, blah, blahs with, And she like freaks the F out and starts listing all the crap that Erica's done. And then she literally, for no reason, like goes over to the table and she like throws a bowl across the floor, like red flag, Erica, that's called domestic violence. And she says, get the F out of here. And she slams the door and she like walks out. And then we pick up after the commercial break and Stephanie is like, I don't know how to process this information given to her by Erica because of this previous relationship. And Erica's in the room crying. She's really upset. And she's like, this whole trip has been about Steph's past, what's traumatic for her. And she's like, what's wrong with her insecurities. But when I bring up something that's from my past with my trauma, she yells at me. And she says it's just awful. And then Stephanie goes back in and she said, I'm sorry that I'm yelling at you. I just feel really manic right now. And Erica's like, yeah, you're kind of acting manic right now. And she's like, and I shouldn't have to deal with this. Yeah, preach it, girl. You should not have to deal with someone freaking the F out because you didn't tell her about a relationship, which was in the past. Anyway, and Steph's like, well, I'm sorry I threw the bowl. And she starts picking it up and she's like, and there's shards of glass, of like ceramic glass all over the floor. And she's like, first it was the dating app. Then it's like her strange relationships with her friends. And I just have to let it all go. And then Erica's just like, how do you expect me to tell you things if you're just going to use things against me? Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Steph. And then Stephanie's like, well, why didn't you tell me this before? I've completely trusted you. I want to meet like, I went to meet your parents and I did all of these things for you. And all you're doing is pushing me to come out to my parents. And then Erica's like, because you're never going to come out. You said to me, my mom is never going to be okay with this. And so Erica goes, don't pursue relationships with people that you know your mom won't be okay with. Why are you playing with my heart because you can't figure out your own? Thank you, Erica. I feel like if she was really in a position where she owned her sexuality, this wouldn't be so dramatic for Stephanie. Everything is so dramatic. Thank you, Erica. She shouldn't be playing with your heart. And then Stephanie's just like, this is just a misunderstanding. We're never going to resolve. And that's it. We're done. Like, that's it? We're done? Because she didn't tell you about a 10-year relationship and she wanted you to come out. That to me tells me that you want to just keep hiding stuff. So, and then Erica starts crying. She goes to pack up her stuff and she's like, I've been working with Steph on her insecurities, but when I open about mine, I feel betrayed. I think it's unfair that I'm the one left being broken up with. I've done so much to make her feel comfortable. And then Erica's like, I'm going to go leave. And then Steph's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm going to find my way back to Adelaide because that's where I'm driving off of. And then Erica literally packs up her bags and leaves her at the hotel. They're like, mind you, hours away from where she needs to be. How is Erica going to find a way back to the airport? I don't know. But Steph's just like, I'm heartbroken. I thought we were going to get past this with the jealousy and the insecurity, but we can't. It isn't working out, and I don't think she's a bad person. It's just not right. I'll always love you, blah, 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 and Erica leaves. My husband and I were, like, screaming at the TV when this was going on, and we were like, it's because you're broken, Stephanie. It's because you have the problems, not Erica. You can't fix things that she's not doing. It's in your head, Erica. Stephanie, it's not Erica's fault. All right, so they break up. It's over. It's done. Now back to, I don't have a photo for David. So now back to David. He is getting ready to meet up with Lana. He was done with the private investigator. I don't think, the private investigator is basically I don't think she's going to show up. So he's getting ready to go and he's bringing her a box of chocolates and they've agreed that they're going to meet up at this statue in the square of Kiev. And he's like, I'm going to get my girl. And then, he's got chocolate and all these other little things, lotions. And he's nervous to meet her because he wants to make sure that they have an affectionate relationship, that there's an attraction. So he gets down there, there's a monument and, it's 11 a.m. And of course it's it's 11:07 and she's not here. Of course she would be here. She wouldn't do this again, right? It's 11:07. She doesn't show up. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, it's her. End scene. So next week, I guess we're going to see them meet. I guess this will be the final episode is we're going to see all the stuff that we already know that he's going to propose to her and maybe we'll get some resolution and maybe we'll see what's his face. Usman and Lisa get married. So basically everyone is done. Oh, and next episode, Geoffrey's going to move on with his friend. What's her face? Mary. So what do you think? Geoffrey, are you with me? Team Baby Pants, Geoffrey. Team Creepazoid Ed, and way to go Rose, way to go Erica. Stand up for yourself, ladies. Get through this. You can do this. Tell me what your thoughts were about this episode. Why did everyone break up? And why am I so addicted to a show that's so clearly scripted? Bye, guys.